I secured a $49,000 credit limit with Navy Federal on a single card. In today's video, I'm going to show you exactly how to apply for a credit limit increase, the best strategies to use, and how to navigate Navy Federal's rules and requirements to maximize your chances of approvals and amounts. So we all know that Navy Federal has a pretty good reputation when it comes to its members. They are pretty friendly for those with less than excellent credit, and they are known to hand out pretty high credit limits right off the bat. With Navy Federal, you can get a combined credit limit of $80,000 across all of your Navy Federal credit cards. There have been a few members that have greater limits than this, but they tend to get a claw back to under $80K. Navy Fed currently has 5 unsecured credit cards, with the maximum number of credit cards that you can have is 3. With the flagship card, you can get a maximum credit limit of $80,000, and with the others, you can get up to $50,000 for each one of those cards. People often wonder why would you need such a high credit limit? For me, there are times where a high credit limit has really helped out. For example, for this year's taxes, I had a pretty huge tax bill, roughly around $40,000 for my personal taxes. One of the few cards I was able to use to pay this off amount was my Navy Federal credit card. I also decided to use this card because there is a fee to pay your taxes, and it was a little bit under 2%. So this card gave me a 2% cash back, which pretty much canceled out that fee. The second reason to have higher credit limits is that it can definitely help you with your credit score. If you have any balances on your credit cards, having a higher credit limit can show that you have a lower overall utilization. And a third reason of why having a high credit limit can be helpful is that it can be better for future applications, not just with Navy Federal, but with other issuers as well. If they see that you can handle a higher credit limit, they'll be more inclined to offer you a higher credit limit as well. Now, let's talk about the credit bureau that's used for requesting a credit limit increase. Navy Federal will use your Equifax FICO 9 credit score for credit limit increases. It's really hard to find this credit score unless you purchase it directly through MyFICO or Equifax, but having a ballpark number through any of the free credit score apps like Credit Karma can give you a rough idea. So before you actually request for a credit limit increase, you need to know that typically credit limit increases done through the phone or through the website usually result in a soft inquiry. If you request for a credit limit increase through the phone, this will most likely result in a hard pull. One way to prevent this from happening is by freezing your credit with Equifax. You can simply do this by creating an account with Equifax and freezing your credit through them. Link will be down below. But again, it is recommended to request through the mobile app or online. Now, before you actually request for a credit limit increase, there is another criteria that you need to meet. First, you're going to have to wait at least 91 days and 3 full statement cycles. This is also known as the 91-3 rule. Although many data points have shown people getting credit limit increases exactly on day 91, it is best to wait at least a few days after to ensure that you meet the 91-day requirement. What I usually like to do is to set a reminder or a calendar date exactly 92 days after I got approved for the credit card to remind me to request for a credit limit increase. Now, if you previously requested for a credit limit increase and were approved, you would have to wait at least 181 days or 6 billing cycles. This waiting period applies to all future credit limit increases. So if this is the case for you, then set a reminder exactly 182 days after your last request. If you requested a credit limit increase before knowing all of the details in this video, you won't be penalized. Most likely you would just get denied, but you can just always reapply right after you meet the waiting period. Now, what if you are unsure of when you last requested your credit limit increase or when did you open your card? There are 2 ways to find out. The easiest is probably calling Navy Federal and asking them when your credit card was open or when was your last credit limit increase was requested. If you prefer not to actually talk to a person, you can actually go onto your statements and backdate this information. Now, if you recently graduated from the N Rewards Secure Card, this will count towards your first credit limit increase. You would have to wait another 181 days or 6 billing cycles before you make another request. Now, let's talk about some strategies for success. Even when you request for a credit limit increase through the app or online, it will be a soft inquiry. This will mean that they will still take a look at your credit. Although this may not hurt your personal credit profile, they will still take a brief snapshot to see what's your current standing. This will be a factor whether or not you get approved. If you have high balances, especially on other Navy Federal credit cards, or if you have a high balance on your current credit card that you're requesting for a credit limit increase for, you will have a hard time getting approved. I have seen people with low account balances in their checking accounts and high balances on their credit cards and get turned down because they're going to be seen as higher risk for Navy Federal to extend more credit to. So whenever you are thinking about requesting for a credit limit increase, just make sure that your credit utilization on that card is low. I prefer it to be as close to as paid off as possible, and your other credit card accounts should be below 30% utilization. This will give you a much better chance of getting approved for your request. If you have any recent derogatory remarks, like within the past 1 to 2 years, you could still try to get a credit limit increase, but I highly doubt that you will get approved since this negative information is still so new. If this describes your current situation, I would highly recommend trying to repair your credit. If you want to save some money and do it yourself, I do have a DIY software that allows you to repair your own credit just with a few clicks. You can print out your own letters and track everything all in one place. It is called Credit Rehab Pro. If you guys want to check it out, the link will be down in the description. Some people have mentioned that building an internal score before asking for a credit limit increase may help, but based on many data points, internal scores really only matter when it comes to credit card applications and nothing else. But since Navy Federal is a credit union and they really favor relationships, having more than one account with Navy Fed can only help. This means by having checking and savings accounts, CDs, auto loans, and other financial products may make it more favorable. But the biggest factors when it comes to credit limit increases is your current credit profile, your spending habits, and your income. Now let's walk through an actual credit limit increase application step by step. First, you would want to click on the account for the credit card that you wish to increase the credit limit for. From there, click on Manage Card. Then if it's a joint account, click on the primary card. Once you scroll down to Maintenance, you will click on the Increase Credit Limit. Next, update any personal information if there are any changes. If there are no changes, then just click Continue. Here's where I see a lot of people mess up. This is where you would enter your requested credit limit. This is the amount of the total credit limit that you want to have, not the amount that you want it to be increased. For instance, I currently have a credit limit of $49,000 and I want it to be increased to $57,000. So I would just enter $57,000. Currently, Navy Federal is only giving you 3 times your current limit or a total of $8,000, whichever is lower. So if you're starting off with a much lower credit limit, such as $1,000, you would only get approved for $3,000 rather than $10,000. So for this instance, there's no way that I could request for 3 times the credit limit since it's not possible. So I would just have to put down $57,000. If you overshoot, it really doesn't matter. They can always counter and give you a lower limit. So there's really no problem if you ask for more than what you can get. Once you click Continue, they will ask you for your employer or your sources of income. This can be your employer's name, or if you're self-employed, it is recommended to put down your business's name rather than just putting business owner or self-employed. Next, you want to enter your total annual income before taxes. Make sure you include all of your income so you have better odds of approval. The more money that you make, the higher the chance that you have of being able to pay back any debt that you owe. So if you are a spouse or an adult living with your parents and they cover your expenses, you can include that income as well. Next, you would have to include your housing information. If you own a home, rent, or live free and clear, just click on whatever applies and enter your payment amount. Now remember, if you're living with roommates or pay a portion of the mortgage, only factor into the amount that you pay into this box. Once you hit Continue at the very bottom, it will take you to a new window where you can review all of your application details before you hit Submit. Once this happens, you will instantly know if you have a credit limit increase or if your request is still being reviewed. If you were approved, you can usually see this reflected in the credit available in the dashboard of that particular card. However, it can take some time for them to approve this, which can take between 2 to 3 business days. But if it takes anything longer than this, then this usually results in a denial. If you do get a denial, you'll receive an adverse action letter in the mail, which will explain of why they couldn't approve you. This will give you a blueprint of what you need to do and to give you better odds of approval for next time. Now, you can ask for a reconsideration if you get a denial, but just keep in mind that this will result in a hard inquiry. So if you had a hard inquiry in the first place, they can actually use that same inquiry to review your application to see if you can get the denial overturned. Now, if you've done it through the mobile app or online, since this is just a soft pull, it really doesn't hurt to try it again once you get some of those problems fixed. Earlier, I mentioned the importance of understanding these strategies to increase your credit limit with Navy Federal. But if you don't choose the right Navy Federal credit card, you might not be maximizing the benefits available to you. So watch this video over here where I'll show you how to choose the best Navy Federal credit card based off your needs and goals.